2%, sorry, I got to get onto the right screen. A 2%, or excuse me, 2.5% rate increase, a 5% rate increase, or a, my goodness, I'm so sorry. Which screen is up? Is the property tax screen up?
Looks like it.
Is my mouse moving on it? Okay, yeah. Um, so they looked at different thresholds to raise in addition to what we were already getting raised. Some people's property values went up on their homes anyways. But if we go above and beyond what the state is recommending, like this 2.5%, overall, it's really a 10% property tax increase to the residents, just from different formulations that the county does. So the council took a little bit more a conservative approach this year in what they're going to talk about in August of the property tax increase of only 2.5%. And what we've done, Janet, since then, Ted and I have been working on breaking out this roads budget in this other screen. There's over $2 million worth of roads repairs that just need to be done and looked at. And trying to figure out how to best do that without having a huge property tax increase. And that's kind of what we want to present tonight. And Jan, I think I've got somewhat of a solution for the next 3 or 4 or 5 years of how it's going to look without draining the savings. I believe you or Brian said, hey, let's keep $250,000 in the savings. Is that an amount we want to work with? Because right now we have about $1.2 million estimated in the savings account right now for the general account that could be used on roads over the next couple of years. We could drain it this year and do all the road projects, or we can use some of the revenues we have coming in now from Class C road taxes, from property taxes, break the projects out over the next 6 years and not make such an impact on the residents. Yes, we're going to take some out of savings. Yes, we're going to have to raise property taxes, but it doesn't come in one huge big chunk all at once. And so, Chair, if you're okay, I can continue with Ted and we can go over the projects for the next couple of years. And then Janet, I can wrap it all up and show you how, or for all you guys, how this could affect the budget, what we need to do from property taxes, what we need to do taking out of savings, and where that leaves us, in year 4, 5, 6.
Okay, that sounds good.
Okay, so Ted, do you want to take these? So let me just go over the spreadsheet real quick. The figures here on the left-hand side are what the engineers put together for different roads projects. What Ted has done is he's taken it now on this right side and broken it down into more manageable bites. We're going to eat this elephant one bite at a time instead of trying to eat the whole thing in one study. Down here at the bottom, you'll see there's other tabs, but once again, not going to worry about anything but roads and stormwater. They kind of flow together in the general budget right now.
Yeah, so maybe I'll just tell you a bit about where this came from. Then we'll talk just quickly about the projects. I won't take too long. So we had 2 studies completed, actually. One was a road study. It was actually quite cool. It used AI technology, and they go through and video all our roads, and then using 12 of, it's called AASHTO, which is a organization that sets a standard for pavement. They use 12 criteria from AASHTO to determine what kind of conditions the road is in. And then based on those conditions, it makes recommended treatments as what to do with those roads. So there were essentially 3 types of treatments recommended on our roads. One is a micro seal, which is basically just a seal of the pavement. And that's for pavement that's in pretty good shape. Just by sealing it, it'll help it last a lot longer. So when you look at the project at the very top, that's just a lump sum cost of $525, $230. That's a project we already have budgeted. We already have under contract for the fiscal year of 2025. That got carried. It'll be done in August. We carried the money over because the contractor wasn't available to do it until August. So we're carrying that money over. That project is under contract to be done, and that'll micro seal all the roads that were done 4 years ago with the water lines. Helps preserve those roads longer. The concept between pavement management is you don't start with your worst first because they're gone. You want to start with preserving your good roads and making them last longer. So by the time you get through your roads project, your roads that were good are now in bad shape and you're spending a lot more money. The second concept is some of these treatments are good for 6, 7, 8, 9 years. So you want to kind of get through your projects in that sort of timeline. So when you get through the projects, then when you start the next cycle, you can start kind of back over on the road you have preserved before. The idea of those with each, say, 6, 7, 8 year, 9 year cycle, the costs get less and less because your treatments are getting cheaper and cheaper because you've done the worst, with the first cycle. So what you're looking at, so that was one study we had done, was the pavement management plan. And we identified, they went through and assessed all 17 miles of roads in our city, and then broke it down into road segments and then the different type of treatments for each road segment. The second thing we had done was a storm, we'll call it I said storm drain in the spreadsheet. It's actually kind of a stormwater runoff project. This was a result of communities downstream from us, for lack of a better way of saying it, kind of getting after us because we keep sending all our flood water down to them. And we're not doing anything to retain floodwaters we create in our city. So when you build houses and buildings and streets and stuff like that, you create additional stormwater runoff beyond what just nature would have produced. And that runoff runs downstream and floods downstream users. So we had a stormwater management plan done. This was done with some FEMA funding. And they identified some stormwater projects that would help us better control our stormwater runoff. So that's the two projects we're looking at. So from there, we broke it down into kind of bite-size projects based on 3 criteria. One is, really 2 criteria. One is the type of treatment. So the first project you looked at in the 2025 fiscal year, will be done this August, is all our, what they call micro seal. That's the cheapest of the treatments, the easiest, and will be done on the best roads. The second project is what we call a mill and fill. They'll grind off 2 inches of pavement and then put back 2 inches of pavement. That's what you're looking at in the fiscal year 2026, or the one that you can see at the top now in the orange, with the orange highlight. That one is already in design, and we've got some budget for that one, and we may be able to get that one done this fall as well. So that tackles our fiscal year 2025 and our fiscal year 2026 projects this fall.
That was done this year, but it got pushed back a little bit, right, Ted?
Well, so the one up there that Chris is highlighting now, that was the one that was planned to be done in fiscal year 2025, or in other words, before July of this year.
Yeah.
But it did get pushed back. Like Janet mentioned, the contractor wasn't available to do it. He's under contract, but he wasn't available to come until the end of August. So we carried that money over from last year's budget to this year. And then the one in the orange highlight that Chris is on now, that one is budget from this year's budget. That we had planned for a project to do this year, and we can probably squeeze both those in this fall. And so we'll have 2 years of projects done by the end of this fall.
Do you see those?
Yeah, they're pretty big numbers.
And then in the included with that, so you can see the road project's about $500,000 in the fiscal year 2026. And then what we did is we had about $780,000 worth of storm drain work, stormwater runoff work they've identified in our city, right there, you can see on that spreadsheet, that we should really be tackling to help better control our stormwater. And essentially what they're recommending is we've got a couple of detention basins in our city already. One of them has a bad outlet on it, and that's the top one, the $15,000. Pretty simple fix. That one we can probably get done this year. It's already in design. The East Summit Creek Drive Basin reconstruction, that's a basin that has already been built. It just needs some work. It hasn't been maintained since it's been built. So that just needs some work to get it reconstructed. Then we also need 3 other basins, kind of down towards the bottom of our city in those major drainages that leave our city. They're recommending some retention basins down in those. We own the property in 1 or 2 of them, I can't remember. Then there's a third one where we probably have to look at would there be a possibility to get some property from a developer? So those would be the 3 basins. And then they're recommending some infiltration sumps around the city that take some of this water that comes off our roads. Right now, it just goes across our roads with all the gravel and everything like that. But put some infiltration sumps into some strategic locations to infiltrate some of the stormwater, and then some culverts to help it cross some of these other roads and basins and stuff like that. So these are the projects they're recommending to to improve the stormwater runoff situation in our city. So what we did is we included, broke these projects down also into the same increment as the road projects. So that 90,000 over there, that actually tackles the first two projects. And then the next 3 years would be a basin, assuming that, the properties fall in place and stuff like that. There's some legwork to do before that. And then we would take on the storm drain, and then we take on the infiltration sumps and culverts in the last 2 years. So what you're looking at is a combination of the two when you see the 593. That's both the road project and the stormwater project. And that could be possibly done in fiscal year 2026. And then each year we just tackle a certain amount of road projects. We tried to group them by project type. So the first, this year will be the mill and fill. And then these last 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years, right? You see right here. These are all what they call pulverize and repave. So we're basically going to pulverize all the pavement that's there in these roads, recompact it as a road base, and then put new pavement over it. So it's kind of a rebuild of the road. And that was what a lot of our roads need. And so we broke all those down over 5 years to get them into sizable chunks to be able to tackle them. Tried to group them by geographic location. So we were doing roads that were in the same area or the same road. And then included a stormwater project with each of those, for each of those years. Hopefully that makes sense.
So Ted, can you not put pavement over pavement? You have to grind.
You can, that's called an overlay. And the only challenge with overlays, in fact, we looked at that for a couple of the streets versus doing a mill and fill. The cost is a little bit less for an overlay, but not much. The only challenge we have in our cities, we don't have curb and gutter really anywhere. And where we do have curb, it's that flat curb. So if you overlay with pavement, you're basically putting 2 inches or 3 inches on top of the ground that's there. So now you've got a lip between that containment curb, we call it, and the road. And also everyone's driveways would have the same issue. You would have a asphalt lip at every driveway of 2 or 3 inches. So what we decided is rather than do an overlay, we would grind off 2 inches and then put 2 inches of new stuff back. So that keeps the same level. So everyone's driveways still tie into the road at a level elevation, and our containment curb all stays level with the road like it is now. I don't know if that answers your question, Mike. But.
Yeah, that does. And so another question I have is on Summit Creek. I would imagine the contractor that did Summit Creek, did they not have to put in these basins already?
The stormwater basins?
Huh?
They did. And that's the first two you see in our projects. The one is the reconstruction of the outlet. So where it says the West Summit Creek Drive Basin Outlet Improvement, that is a basin that the Summit Creek developer installed, but the outlet is just not functioning like it should. And actually Summit Creek has agreed to pay half the cost. We accepted the project. So in effect, it's now our facility. But I went back to Summit Creek and talked to them about it, and they were willing to pay half the cost of it. And then the East Summit Creek Drive Basin, that was one that the developer also built. And we accepted it some years ago. It's just not been maintained and needs some reconstruction work. So both those were built by Summit Creek, by developers. Now the other basins, Mike, you make a good point. When we look at Central Woodland Hills Basin 1 and Basin 2 and Basin 3 for the next 3 years, if development happens in those areas, some of them I think they will, and we can probably, as we get down to like Central Woodland Hills Basin 3, that could possibly be part of a development project, and then we wouldn't have to pay for it. Right now, I'm not sure if it will or not. The Central Woodland Hills Basin 1, that is actually on our property, so likely wouldn't be developed since it's city property, and we would probably have to like build that basin. So you make a good point. So some of those basins out of those 3 Central Woodland Hills Basins, we could possibly participate with the developer and get those built. And then that money could be used for something else. But for right now, we're not sure. So we've just planned it in the budget.
And then when you look at these, you've got several, like South Woodland Hills Drive 3 times, and then Eagle Nest Drive 5 times. I'm assuming that's just segments on the drives, right?
Yeah, that's just the way the AI technology broke them out. Because they what they do is they grade, they take a photo every 10 feet of the road, and then using those photos, they assess the road and they grade it and give it a score. And so as that score changes, it changes the segment. Even though, so each of those, like Eagle Nest Drive, each of those 5 segments have a different score, but all the scores are bad enough that it all requires the same type of treatment.
So water lines, when we were talking about water lines, when we're doing this, are we doing some water lines at the same
No.
time?
Not with these projects, because all of these roads have good water lines in them. These are stuff in Thousand Oaks and Summit Creek. Woodland Hills Drive had the water line replaced, 5 or 6 years ago or so. Maybe it's a little longer than that. Maybe it's about 8 or 9 years ago. So Oak Drive had the water line replaced. Loafers had new water line in it. So all of these roads are roads that have good water lines in them.
So we're not doing, and Ted can correct me if I'm wrong, but we're not doing any of the roads that still need the water line done.
Right. None of those are included in this work because those roads will be done with the water line project.
They'll get
And
a
they will
grant.
be paid for by water line funding.
And Ted's gonna do his magic and some money.
We're looking for grants right now. Ted's been looking for grants.
Just get
Yeah.
your- Ted, and get some money for us.
Yeah, we're working on it. Our trouble is people up in this city, their incomes are too high, and so we don't qualify well for grants, but there is funding available. We just have to look at how we repay the debt. But as Chris mentioned kind of to start, these are all projects that come from our general fund. The projects, the roads that will include water line replacement would all come from our water fund, which water has to pay for water. So those have to be repaid through water rates.
Janet, here's a question. So Summit Creek did come in. There's a lot of affluency down there. Does that change things for us in the city?
That would be probably a question for Chris. I mean, yeah, one of the houses that's for sale right now is what, 15 million or
14
something?
and 8.
Yeah.
That's what I'm talking about is there's a lot of affluency. And so when Ted said, we have a hard time qualifying because our incomes are too high, is that jaded because of Summit Creek?
Probably. But
No,
Not
it's not
really.
just Summit Creek. It's before Summit Creek was even built, we were put into this category. At one point, I think it was 2008, 2009, our per capita income was higher than Deer Valley. And so it's been a while. And that's before Don was able to even start Summit Creek to the full extent today. There's people are really blessed in the city in Summit Creek and out.
yeah.
And maybe, Mike, just to give you an idea, the state, when they look at funding for grant money, now we can get loan money, low interest loan money. Anybody can get that. When you're looking at grant money specifically, give you an example, they look at what they call the median adjusted gross income and where your city is relative to the state average. The state average, and these are kind of low numbers because they're not like exactly median income, but like the state average for the median adjusted gross income is like 50,000, and our city would have to have a median income less than 50,000 average to qualify for grant money. Good grant money. We can still get some grant, but to get all grant, and our city's like at 90,000 as far as our median adjusted gross income. So
I'll try to bring it up for us.
Is that per household, Ted? Is
What's
that how they
the
do that?
adjusted median outcome? Sorry, I was typing. What did you say it was?
So our city, they look at what they call the median
It's not that.
adjusted gross income.
I thought it would be higher.
Our city
Nine-
average is
That's
about
high.
87,000. And they take this from the last census. And then the statewide average is around 50-ish thousand. Now, I don't know exactly how they get this number because it's not the same as the median income. It's a median
Yeah.
adjusted gross income.
That's just not that high though.
Yeah, that's why I say it's not our median income. It's a median adjusted gross income the state uses. If that makes sense. So they make some adjustments to what would be a median income for us. So our median income might be 120,000, but after they get done doing whatever they do to it, they say it's 90,000. So they call it the median adjusted gross income, not the median income.
Hmm.
They're selling places for 40 and 50 million. I just.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I've seen reports where we have the highest, one of the highest, well, we definitely have the highest property taxes. That's been for how many years? And then we have
Yeah.
the highest income. I've seen that too, that we're in like in the top 5 or something.
So the state median adjusted gross income right now is 56,000. And this is numbers that the Department of Environmental Quality uses. And then the Woodland Hills median adjusted gross income is 87,000. And we're like probably in the top easy 10 in the state, maybe in
Interesting.
the top 5. Geez, Mount Green, 139,000. I didn't ever guess that.
Where?
Mountain Green, they're the highest. No,
Weird.
sorry. Hideout is the highest.
Inner Mountain Green.
Where's
Mountain.
Mountain Green?
That's up out of Ogden.
Okay.
Is that right?
Kind of those resort areas.
Mountain Green is up out of, I think, Ogden Canyon.
Yeah.
We were contemplating doing a facility there. But UDOT wanted us to put an exit off the freeway, so we're sitting. Okay.
Hmm.
So as you can tell, just by the numbers and the things that we're talking about, this is going to be so fluid. This 5-year budget could be out of, or this 6-year budget that I'm going to show you guys in 3 months could just be changed around greatly. Each year, depending on how much revenue we receive and how much we have to spend, will also determine our property taxes. So I'm going to jump down here and I'm going to black this out for just a second. Actually, just don't pay attention to that part. Okay, so as of today, we did a 2.5, it's being proposed to do 2.5% tax increase on top of the tax increase, property tax increase that's already happening through the county. There'll be truth and taxation hearing August 12th where citizens and residents can come discuss with the council their concerns or their pros or cons. But right now we have an estimated June 30th balance for 2025 of $1.7 million, or excuse me, $1.27 million in that capital projects account. That's going to be adjusted when we get the audits all done and get everything balanced out. But as of today, then for the projects that Ted wants to do this year, and I'm going to throw you, Ted, which is this 525,000 for the project from last year, plus 503,000 in these roads projects, plus 90,000 in stormwater, plus the other things that we've got going on general budget. We need to transfer from that $1.2 million, roughly $814,000, even with the 2.5% increase that we're doing. So these are just round numbers. If anybody sees the recording and wants detail, we're just talking round number right now. So at the end of this year, so June 30th, 2026, that should leave around $460,000 in the savings account. Then,
Chris, can I interject just really fast? The mayor didn't want to increase them at all, but it would have, how much would we have taken out of savings if we didn't increase taxes? Do you remember?
It would have been about every 2.5% is about an additional $100,000. So we would have taken close to $1 million out, or $915,000.
And we just, as a council, we just weren't comfortable with that. So
Yeah, good. Yeah. So that would leave us roughly $460,000 at the end of this year. Then for the projects that Ted has outlined for the fiscal year 2027, there's 381,000 in roads, plus 150,000 in storm drain projects, plus other items in the budget we need to do. we would need to take about another $195,000 out of savings, which for June 2027 would leave us about 265,000. Now, if I remember right, Janet, you guys were just throwing numbers out of keeping $250,000 to $200,000 to $250,000 in the savings account, was just numbers I remember writing down.
Yes,
So-
because we were talking about if there was an emergency, we need to have, we need to have those funds.
Yes.
Yeah.
So once again, this is different than the water. The water's got its own money, its own savings account. Within the savings account of the general fund, we're limited by what we can save per year. So 5 to 25% is it. And we can't, that's not cumulative. That's just what our fund balance can be each year. The state doesn't want us to charge property taxes and use it as a slush fund and keep building up a huge savings account. They want it to be managed better, so we're not hitting the citizens so much. So let's keep going. So end of June 2027, our balance is 265,000. Well, fiscal year 2028, the projects with the revenues we have coming in, the projects are we only need to take 65,000 from the savings account. So then that drops us down to June 2028 of $200,000. And I just kind of highlighted that in green because, okay, maybe that's a stopping point. There's $200,000 we could keep in the savings account. But after June 2028, it goes downhill from there, from the with the projects that proposed being done to the money we have. We just start going way more in debt. We wipe the savings account out to the point that we're actually in the red. So it's not feasible this way. Now, the monies that I'm taking out here and including is, Janet, a 2.5% increase every single year on the property tax. We're holding the truth in taxation every year and doing a minimum of 2.5%. That's just to get these numbers right here. So you can see that that's not going to work. So then I thought, okay, if we come over here to this other side of the graph or this chart, and what if we did an estimated truth in taxation city portion, we do additional 2.5% or really a 5% each year. What does that do to us? So that actually changes the game quite a bit, that we can get these projects done within a 6-year time frame. I didn't go much past 2030. I've got to have the computer programmers in our accounting program it to let us go out 6 years. And so I wasn't able to get that all the way done. However, if we do a 2.5% rate increase that I've already included over here, property tax increase, plus an additional 2.5%, our numbers start changing. So that instead of having 265,000 at the end of 2027, we're actually about 371,000. So then for fiscal year 28, we don't really need to take anything out of savings, and that money stays there. So we start fiscal 29 with $371,000. And then, like I said, it's about $100,000 difference. So we'd have to take 261,000 out with the property tax structure we have now, or if we increase it like I'm showing over here, just 100,000 less. But that's basically a 5% increase every year on top of what the state is already doing. I don't want this to be locked in stone. It's going to change. We don't need to panic. This is not going to be a huge thing, but this is just, the council needed a flavor of what it was going to do. I think this gives us a little bit of better flavor, but the true outcomes is what happens at the end of each year. I need to jump into the budget real quick and pause here because I want to show you a couple things within the budget that are a little bit, I don't want to say over budgeted, but being really cautious just in case something happens. So here's a 5-year budget. This is actually from our computer program. Let's see, I can make it a little bit bigger. Nope, that's the wrong way. You guys see that a little better?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. So what I want to do is I'm going to just jump to the expenses, if it'll let me here. Because Ted, I need your thoughts on this. So within the roads budget, I did a 2.5% inflator all the way across. So these numbers you see here are 2.5% each year, but I've started backing down like the mayor's pay and the council's pay. I know, Jen, I think you're going to talk about that. Oh, you're running again, aren't you? Maybe
Yeah,
you
if
won't
I
talk
was
about that.
not running again, I would talk about that. But since I'm
Okay.
running, well,
So I
Give
just
it-
took a basic inflator in the computer program to just do 2.5% all the way across, and then I started backing stuff down. But Ed, in the roads budget, I got a little concerned that like, and I've changed it. I've called this streets general maintenance, including pavement management plan. And here's the different dollar amounts that we were just talking about that we need to do those road projects. Once again, I need to get those 2 years fixed so they can be programmed. But I'm also thinking, well, we might have other problems come up. We're going to still need money in the roads account. So I've kind of kept, this is a little low. I've kept $100,000 of additional quote unquote monies that just in case potholes start popping up, a road washes out, non-FEMA type event, something like that. Ted may not use this money, which would mean, let's just say he used 50,000 of this $100,000. That means 50,000 the next year. It's 50,000 less in property taxes. Instead of doing an additional 2.5% increase, maybe we only need to do a 1.8 or 2% increase. That's what I was talking about, how this is very fluid at this point.
How confident are you that prices will only go up 2.5%?
I'm so glad you just said that, because here's the other thing that we wanted to discuss. And Jan, I don't know if this was discussed in council meeting, maybe it was, or if it's been discussed in some other finance meetings I've been having with mayor. But there's been asphalt and tar has been going up quicker than 2.5%. One thought was to go out and just borrow all the money and just get all these projects done in the next 12 months, and then take these revenues here and just sock it against that loan and just get that loan paid back as quick as possible. But we're using today's lesser dollars costs than what it's going to cost in year 2030 or 2029. And so that's, oh,
Yeah.
sorry.
I just said because every year, yeah, the price is going to go up.
That was one other thing that the council or the mayor wants you guys to consider is, what would you think about going out and just getting is it 2.5 or 2.8? Actually, let's get a firm number right now. Not a firm number, but a much closer number. It would be.
Yeah, and just maybe for a little bit of input too on that, Kim, is when the engineers put these estimates together, they try to adjust them for inflation over the next 5 or so years. Now, having done this for 20-something years as an engineer, one thing I learned pretty quickly is you can't ever outguess or out-escalate what the construction industry does. Seemed like no matter how high I thought I was overestimating my projects, I was never that far above, and in some cases not far enough to even match what the prices were coming in at. So the hopes would be they've been inflated, the construction dollars, but I don't think it's something we should bank on.
So Ted, are we talking $2.5 million?
For both stormwater and roads, yeah. The
Yeah.
summation of those two numbers, yeah.
So the thought is
that
maybe go to.
something we could get a zero interest loan on?
No,
What would the interest rate be?
I think we'd be about just guessing, a 4 to 4 or 5, somewhere around there.
Have you run the numbers on what the total cost of that would be then over a 5-year period?
Not.
Should have brought my computer home. I've got an amortization schedule I keep built on my computer just for.
I got one here on my
Oh.
phone. Let's see if we do 2 million. See if it'll go up to 2.6 million.
You got
See what the-
2.5 inflation and 4% interest, you're better off waiting. Right?
Well, I don't even think it'd be 4%, would it? Or is that what you said, Ted? 4%. COVID, it was up to 22%. It's kind of back down since then.
For construction, you mean construction inflation?
Yeah,
Yeah, you're probably 4 to 5% now. It was at about 10% a few years ago. but
Yeah.
It was probably
and
down
we
to-
don't know
Yeah.
the next virus, the next pandemic. So it'd be about $500,000 a year for 5 years. 6 years. I did 6 years. 5
You
years.
basically double the amount. So, we're dealing with unknowns here. So this is a tough decision because you don't know what inflation is going to be. That's the big unknown.
And maybe we don't borrow 2.5 million. We've got 1.2 in the bank. Maybe we borrow 1.5 and take $1 million out of the bank and leave $250,000 in there.
Well, and
So
that's something else that we discussed is that if if you have a little bit of money in the bank, then you have more leverage to get financing. But if we spend it all, then we lose
Right.
some of that leverage.
yeah, that's 300 and roughly rough numbers, 360,000 a year. It's a little more palatable.
Mm-hmm.
And that still leaves Ted the 100,000 a year to continue doing his other work as problems come up, as surely as they do.
You do have some concern though, because we've got all these vehicles now on leases and snow plows and everything on leases. And apparently Salem City, and I was told this from someone credible, but that Salem City is kind of drowning in payments at the moment because they've done all their vehicles and a lot of their work on loans and stuff, and now they've got all these payments. And they're and I mean, they have a lot of money, don't get me wrong, but they also have a lot of infrastructure with all of this new construction.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I can't
They have
imagine.
to pay for. So they're kind of drowning in payments. So there's a little bit of some of the council doesn't, there's caution. They don't want, we don't want a lot of debt. We don't want to where we're so strapped down that then something else comes up and we can't take care of it. If something else happens, if we have a major water line break or, you know what I mean? Something and we can't afford to fix it because we've got so much debt. I'm just saying there are members of the council, I'm probably one of them, that just want to be cautious. Like we want to make sure we don't borrow too much money.
Ted, if we borrowed and did all of the projects at once, what would that do to the road management plan? Would it alter that at all?
It would change the dynamic. So what we would do, and realistically may not be a bad approach if that was something that were feasible, is in effect, we're going to have, I won't say new roads, but we will have rehabilitated roads. So we would probably be able to just sit on roads other than maybe some minor stuff, repairs, for probably 3 or 4 or 5 years before we'd have to start this again. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Maybe give us some time to save up some more money. If depending on how much we're repaying in debt service, if we
Right.
get a loan, as to how much we could set aside. But if you did like a 5-year loan, so it depends on the treatment. Like the micro seal that we're doing this August, it's about a 6 or 7 year treatment, and then they say you should micro seal it again. When we get to the pulverize and repaves, now the nice thing about those is we'll pulverize and repave this time. Then probably in about 5 or 6 years we'll come back and micro seal it. So for the next 2 cycles we'll be just micro sealing it, which is a quarter of the cost. So our challenge that we face is that the roads have fallen far enough in disrepair that it's gonna hurt a little bit, sting, I guess maybe is a better word, to get them to where they need to be. Once we get them there, then we can manage them, I think, at less expensive costs with less expensive treatments. But we've got to take this initial chunk somehow, and if we start with micro seal this year, probably 7 years, it's going to be ready to be micro sealed again, that one we're doing this year. So the hope is we're kind of through the rest of the streets and then ready to come back to this one again and micro seal it.
Doing the roads over an extended period, are we at risk of having some of the roads deteriorate so that we have to do a more expensive treatment?
Correct. Yeah. So for example, those that are being done this year, they're micro seals. Now, luckily we already got those under contract and we've got the budget, so they'll be done. But say, for example, we couldn't do a micro seal and we sat on those for 3 years, then the treatment may need to be a mill and fill, which is going to cost twice as much. You know what I mean? So the longer we kick the can, and I really don't want to speak because I think I'm trying to just not, I'm trying not to say, I think the can has been kicked for a little while, and we've kind of got to the point now where we've got to stop kicking it and start, repairing these, or it's just going to get worse and worse. We've already got a handful of roads that are, nothing we can do about them. They're so far gone. They're going to require, they should be a complete restoration, but that'd be way out of our budget. So we're going to do the pulverize and repave.
But unfortunately, they also have to wait the longest. The worst roads have to wait.
Yeah, and see, moving that up, I'm kind of leaning, I'd like to see what the do a comparison of here's what the cost will be doing them over 5 years, and here's what the total cost would be if we do it, borrow the money, do it all now. I think they're going to be pretty comparable.
Yeah. Yeah. And the hopes is some of these will get in. If we can get some water funding to do the water line projects, that'll redo some of these roads that are really bad, like Maple and that. The hope is maybe we can do some of those concurrent with this plan that we're doing as well. Because there'll be a separate fund. But I agree, Tim. I think that's not a bad approach.
Yeah, Tim, I just took a note. I'll do that. It's a good suggestion to look at that. And I'll have that ready for council on the 29th. And I'll run it past you guys here in the next couple of days so you can just kind of look at the numbers, and I'll send you these papers that I was showing you also.
And maybe do an iteration where you show what inflation would be at 4%. What the cost is going to be if we do it over time, the additional inflationary cost out those extra years versus what we could do it all for now. Because the debt service will stay flat. It's not going to go up.
Yeah, and
I
you're
think
right.
that's the bigger issue. The inflationary issue is bigger and more unknown to me, scarier than the debt service.
And you're right. If you do all the projects, say for example, now at a 4% debt service interest rate, you take construction inflation out of the equation.
Yeah, at least temporarily.
Yeah,
Again.
so you have to start over again.
I think those are good thoughts, Ted, that we need to be thinking about. But how do you think the citizens are going to accept a rate hike like this? Again,
Well, the 2.5 was actually my idea, so they're gonna get mad at me.
I know, I'm not.
Everybody else was,
It doesn't matter who gets mad at who, but how do
they
you
were
think-
cool with taking it out of savings, and I was like, no. You know?
Well, and for the record, some people are pushing 5 and Janet actually talked them down. So yeah, she may have requested it too, but she actually brought them down. So you get more credit than you're taking, Janet.
So what is the county looking at? I haven't received my tax estimate.
Well,
yet.
and
They're coming out next week.
the mayor wanted to keep it level, so with whatever the county is doing, so not increase for our portion. But like I say, it would take too much out of savings. And to me, it felt like then there's no plan for the future. We still have to, and that's why these guys did these projections. Because I said, and Chris had raised it before, how are we going to pay for this in the future? We don't know. And I'm like, well, that's not acceptable. Like, we need to figure out how we're going to pay for it in the future. And so that's why they went and they did all the work and figured out what it would be for each year and how much would have to come out of savings. Because that's something I wanted to know, and the council wanted to know too. We just want to make sure.
I just had one other thought. Could you pull up that spreadsheet real quick?
Which one?
The one that
Pavement
Right.
plan.
Yeah, the
the
plan.
payment plan. When you do scroll so we can see all of the breakdown, or scroll up. Yeah, what I'm trying to figure out is what that 1.7 million includes.
Oh,
So
it's
if
all
you-
these, isn't it? It's
Well,
this.
and that one we're going to be done this year, right? So we wouldn't have a loan out. So if we were going to get a loan, it would probably only be not the first fiscal year 2026 project, right?
What I would recommend, so actually it's $2.7 million, all those numbers. Where's this one? Where are you getting this 1.7 from?
So yeah, so there. Now you're doing what I'm trying to do.
Oh,
So
you didn't get those two in there.
that's because those two will be done this year, and we won't have a loan likely by the time we do those
And
two projects.
they're already funded.
They're funded with cash, yeah.
Yeah, cash. So that's why, yeah. So the 1.7 would be what we would need to
Savings.
complete everything beyond the two that are being done this year.
Okay, so it's 3.5 million is what we need. 3.6 million if we did it all.
Yeah, if we got a loan for it all.
And at this point, so what I said earlier wouldn't be as advantageous to the city. because we would be taking more out of savings. I thought it was everything included. But if we do $3.6 million now at, let's do 4.5%. For 5 years. So now we're talking 800,000 a year payments. So the 5 years might be too aggressive. Maybe we go out 7 years. And that takes it down to 600,000. So that's a little more palatable. Or maybe we don't fund the 780,000. Maybe we just do the $2.8 million. And then we just take this at 5 years at a time.
Well, I don't know. I don't think you would want to, because there is some money every year in the budget that goes towards it. So you wouldn't want to finance it all anyway, right? You'd have to
No, I
figure
think
out.
you'd back that portion out.
You'd have to, yeah,
So
you'd
the-
want to calculate that and not include that in the financing. Or am I wrong, Chris?
Wait, which part I'm not following? Back which part out? Sorry, let me show that again.
Just that we have money in the budget, in the roads that's
Oh, yeah,
going
yeah.
to offset some of this. It's not all coming out of savings every year.
Correct. Matter of fact, that's what I was just going to pull that up here so we could talk and see exactly how much we're
So you would only need you'd only need loans for the amount that would not be budgeted money in future years, right?
Or that's not, I mean, you could back out what you could take out of savings, right? And
right here, all
that-
these 700,000 here, 530 here, 470 here. So these are the monies that I would consider making the payment back on the loan without stretching, without having to do too much. And this is only keeping the property tax level with a 2.5% rate increase every year and not the whole amount. But this is taking money out of savings, so. And I'll show you how much that is each year. It is. Oops, that was right there. So 400,000 this year, 200,000 this year, 65 this year, 265. So we would need to maybe even look at a 10-year structure on the loan. Right now, the loans that we have for the roads that we did before and some of the other ones were 20 years. And that loan outlasts the life of the road. So we wouldn't
Yeah.
want to go too far out.
Well, I think we'd want to use whatever the life of the road would be. If it's a 7-year road, then that's what we ought to try and finance it, or if we can.
Yeah, Mayor Prey and somebody else brought it up the last couple of council meetings, said it's debt financing is not too bad in cities because the current residents, if you go debt financing, current residents are paying for those benefits. You're not saving something up like the fire trucks or the snowplow trucks. We were saving and an ambulance. We're at 10,000 a year when an ambulance costs $300,000-$400,000. We're just not going to ever save it. It's just not going to work. So back those out, let debt service do some work for us.
Well, I'm leaning towards trying to get it all done, and because again, the scarier of the unknowns is that inflation rate.
And that could be a
It is
killer.
down right now, but it can change so fast.
It can change in a heartbeat.
I really doubt that in the construction side that it's going to be 2.5. It hasn't been the last 30 years. It hasn't been 2.5.
Well, and that's
With-
what we need to know, I guess, is what you guys recommend. And then we have to approve it though on the 29th, right?
No,
Whatever.
the 29th is just we have included a budget meeting. The 29th, the mayor's going to allot half hour, 45 minutes, so we can all go over this together, kind of what we're talking about tonight. Give the recommendation to the finance committee, or just kind of some thoughts the finance committee is given. Then on August 12th is the truth and taxation hearing. We won't talk too much about budgets, and that's the only thing that's going to be on the agenda. Then on the 26th, I think it's August 26th, the last Tuesday, that will be the next big budget discussion.
So do we have to submit something to the county since the county is sending out tax evaluations? Don't we have to have something to the county before those tax evaluations hit our doorstep?
Yeah, that was done about The last council meeting in June.
And so that was a recommendation of 2.5%.
Chris
That's-
laid out like a 5, a 10, and was it 50? I can't remember what it was, but you laid out like a 5, a 10, and I think a 15% increase.
Yeah, and you had me delete the 15, so I got rid of it or something like that.
Yeah,
So,
I just said take that right off of there right now.
Yeah, but we've submitted that to the county.
2.5. We submitted
2.5.
2.5, which is what we all kind of agreed on.
And I don't think you can really go over that, can you, if that's gonna.
you cannot.
No, we can't now. So the increase would have to be the next year. But what our concern was, and it happened in the past, is that we went several years, and David Pratt talked about this at length. It happened to be his election year, but we went probably 3 or 4 years where they didn't raise it at all. And then all of a sudden, if you remember a few years back, we had to do that huge increase. It was
Yeah.
probably 5 years ago. We had to do that huge increase. And he was, he wasn't very happy because that was his reelection year. And then, so he just got beat up pretty good about that when he would talk to people. And it was,
Yeah, there was.
Oh, yeah.
But if you look at our tax rates, here they are right here for the past few years. And you can see in 2019, we're at a 0.3934. Then 2020, we jumped to 4.1. Then it dropped to a 3.9. And then we didn't do truth in taxation and it dropped all the way down to a 3.0. So we lost almost, a whole point there.
What are your thoughts? You think
Well,
it-
I'm always sensitive to especially those that are on fixed incomes and I'm feeling the tax increases more than I've ever felt them
Mhm.
personally.
Yeah, me too.
And so I'm sensitive to that. And it feels like the government just keeps grabbing all the time, coming in and grabbing money.
Well, it's
Like,
everything we do
never
is
enough.
taxed. You taxed when you get paid, you taxed when you buy it, you're taxed when you use it. You know what I mean?
And you're taxed every on your property taxes and your cars and every year.
Yeah, it's just crazy.
So, yeah,
And NEBO's holding the truth in taxation, so there potentially will be a school raise this year. And then there's one other one that's holding that's on the property taxes. When you hold these meetings, it's more likely you're having a raise in your property taxes.
I understand infrastructure, it has to be dealt with. I understand that. I want to be sensitive to those that struggle.
So
Yeah.
Chris said we can back off of the 2.5, but now we can't go up. We can
Right.
still go down, but we can't go up.
But 2.5 in the whole scheme of things, I don't think is the concern of most citizens. I think it's the overall tax, the county and everything else that hits us.
Yeah,
But
that's
some
what they
don't
see.
understand that, and it's hard to explain that the
Yeah, I
bulk
think it's the
of
city
the
hitting them.
increase will be coming from all the other things.
Yeah.
Yet the city's portion is so small.
It is, but remember, even though we're doing 2.5, it actually equates out to a 10% overall
Yeah.
tax increase for the city. Or if we did 5%, it's a 13, or 6.5%, it was a 14.5. I think, Janet, that's the numbers you keyed on right there.
So
Yeah.
I don't understand that, what you're saying there. 2.5 equals 10. What is,
Because there's already a natural raise that's come on to the property tax. Once again, this is not for every single property. We have to take the law of averages here. And so when I go through and I took these 6 homes right here throughout the city and just went through and looked at what they were paying for this school district, for the city portion, for the county portion, and for any special districts, and then looked at what the state was giving us. Now the state does do an increase in property values and stuff. So on average, with the property value increase that we're done this year on several of the homes, it's going to come out to an average of about a 10% rate increase if we do a 2.5% ourselves. So maybe the counties was 7.5, or not the county, the state's valuations on average came to 7.5, and now we're going to add 2.5 on top of that for an
so
overall 10%.
Yeah, so you
Mhm.
got a valuation
if your
increase.
taxes are $1,000, then they're going to be 1,100.
Yeah.
And what, 7.5% of that is due to like property value increase?
More than likely, there's a chunk of that's for property value increases.
So the value of your home goes up a certain percentage.
So
That's
the thing that
only on
I
average.
struggle to understand is when we have such an increase in building in the city, that's captured revenue for us.
Mhm.
When you say, what do you mean by, isn't that additional revenue for the city?
It is. So the theory in the state of Utah is They try and keep your property taxes level from year to year. So that's why these rates over here we talked about drop, is because home values go up. So property tax percentages can go down. But let's say you paid $1,200 the year before, where you're going to pay about 1,200 and a little bit more the next year and a little bit more the next year. They try and keep it level. But we have to remember, Woodland Hills, we don't have 4, 5, 6 homes per acre. We have 1 home per acre. And so we got all that road and all that infrastructure that 1 home's got to cover versus 4 to 6 homes. So we take a double, triple dip in our needs for property taxes.
Yeah, that's the unfortunate side, Mike, is that these homes do bring us revenue, but with that they bring more infrastructure that then costs us more money to maintain and keep maintained.
And we live on a mountainside that is
It's
moving.
constantly moving. Yeah.
Yeah. And the snow plows and the snow, it's just been salt and Peterson riding that lawnmower around. Was it Peterson that was riding the lawnmower around on the roads?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. That's what took them over
That's
the
what
edge.
did it.
Maybe
It's
it
the,
all-
Yeah, he would pick it up at the city and drive it up to the park.
the lightest vehicle on the road.
So, yeah.
Well, I agree with the philosophy that, you know, from a financial committee member, I agree with the smaller increment increases versus waiting and then increasing big. I do agree with that principle.
That's why we propose it, because we were afraid, and I understand, the mayor, he wanted to just go with what the county had and not increase our portion, but when we could look at the projections of what we needed to take out for this project, it just, 2.5, it isn't a ton, it's not gonna make a huge difference, but at least we're not being as aggressive at what we're taking out of savings, and so that's why we propose that, because, and we were, at some point, 2 years down the road, we would have had to do a huge increase.
Yeah.
I mean, talking 34 cents a day or $11 a month on average. But still, that's $11 a month this year, $11 a month last year. I mean, so we're up to $100 a month now from where we were 12 years ago.
And we've really worked Chris and Ted over on this. Like, we've made them do a lot of different scenarios. And I mean, I'm just saying, like, even in the meeting, he was like, okay, I got to go work on this. I'll come back because we're like, change it. We want you to change it to 2.5 and calculate it and tell us what it's going to be. So he had to do that. So.
No, I really, personally, and I'm sure I speak for Tim too on the committee as far as Janet on this. She's already been in on this, but I express appreciation for all the work you thought you put into this. It's obviously not an easy task here to make these decisions and where we spend our money. But roads and water, snow removal, those are necessities.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we have to have them. And so we need to take care of our assets. And looking forward, and the way I think this is being planned out would be a benefit down the road for the city versus having road catastrophes and having to really spend some significant dollars.
Yeah. If we can keep on with the pavement management plan, Woodland Hills will have been in better shape than the 25 years I lived there. I mean, this is just, we have professional engineers that have designed it. We have a professional engineer that is managing it. And it's just, Woodland Hills in 4 or 5 years, or if we get a loan, it's going to be more beautiful than it is today.
And
Well,
hopefully
if we can
easier
just-
and less expensive to maintain.
Yeah, if we can just tackle
point.
this first little, get over this hump of getting everything up to snuff, I think it'll be easier and less expensive going forward to maintain it.
Well, Tim, are you okay with the 2.5 and proposing this?
Well, I don't know. Again, I think there's a little more work needs to be done because I don't think we need to, for borrowing purposes, I don't know that we need all of that 2.5, like Janet said, because we do have money coming in every year to that budget. So if we could try and figure out where the middle of that is and how much we really need to borrow, in order to make that work and make the debt service payments. It's probably pretty close to the 2.5 though, I'd imagine.
Can I ask you this? I don't know how much time we're gonna have between now and the time we get back with the council, but after having our staff meeting on Monday, the thought I have with the mayor is I want to have a open discussion about these finances. I'm wondering if you two would be able to be at the next city council meeting on July 29th at 7 o'clock or 6 o'clock.
Let me look.
And then that way maybe, and Jen, I don't want to overstep, but I'm thinking if we put all our heads together, because even tonight, Tim, when you're talking about getting these different scenarios and try out different inflators, didn't even think about that, but that's going to be some good information for the council to, put in there.
I'm available the 29th.
I might not be. I might be in Island Park.
Island Park can wait.
You can fly back from Pocatello to Salt Lake and then drive down
Sun
through Denver probably, but
is up Island Park.
You need to be with your
25th
family.
to the 29th.
Whose cabin you staying at?
It's an Airbnb. It might be yours.
That's my. What's your son's name?
Jake,
I'll go look. There's a million of them. So.
Jake Thomas. So, yeah, I'll go try to be there, but I don't know what their schedule is.
well, and if you can join by Zoom too, if that's a possibility.
Let me do, I've got a little bit of time tomorrow. Let me see if I can find historical inflation on, specifically on
Okay.
road construction
Okay.
over the last few years.
And then I will contact Zions Bank, see what rates are, maybe get 3 tiers of money or something, 1.5, 2.5, and 3.5, just so everybody can see the differences and different terms. And so we just have enough information to make a decision. We don't have to make council doesn't make a decision July 29th. They will on August 26th, but this will help.
Well, and it would also help us to be armed for the truth and taxation so that
Yeah.
we have some good answers when citizens ask questions. Sometimes they're so overwhelmed by it, though, that they don't know what to ask, I feel like.
And sometimes you get one person or two people and the rest just don't even show up.
Yeah.
Well, I have to admit, I'm a little overwhelmed, but I'm glad we have Tim here.
Well, it's overwhelming to me too, because it's becoming more and more fixed income every day, so.
I'm talking about all the numbers and everything.
Oh,
and
yeah.
everything that's out there. We're talking big numbers here. And I guess it's, sometimes for a lay person like me, it's hard to understand why it costs so much to do these projects.
Well, the Loafer Canyon, how long of a section was that, Ted, and how much did it cost? Just give him an idea.
The new road,
Yeah, the new one we just did.
That little 200 yard, whatever it is not much longer than 200 yards, is it? 300 maybe?
525,000,
Oh, was it?
325,000. How much?
500, wasn't it?
I thought it was in 500,000. Good look and see who did that road.
And how long was it, Ted? Do you remember?
which road? I'm lost which road you're talking about.
Down past Glenn and Kathy's house.
Yeah, the new Loafer.
Oh, yeah. Okay, that was 330,000 and it's
330.
about probably a half mile. Maybe not even that, quarter mile.
Well, I'd be surprised if it's a quarter mile.
Yeah.
And
And that-
and Tim, to go back to what you're saying, there's economies of scale, right? By not having to mobilize and demobilize all the time. If we can get these all done in one shot, we get, I don't know, Ted, maybe I hang my hat too much on that, but we're not paying another 8, 10, 12, 15 grand for them to bring their tractors back and forth each time.
Yeah, there is some efficiencies in doing it all as one project.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure. I agree with that. You know, I've watched projects through the years, like up into Deer Creek and like that. And sometimes it's hard to understand why they just don't bite the bullet and finish it out, you know?
Yeah,
Money.
And
That's
it's money.
it's money.
That's what it boils down.
yeah. The water line project we did about 4 miles, a little over 4 miles of water line and roads when we did that one 5 years ago, and that was almost 4 million to do that one. So that was about, to do the water line and the road was close to $1 million, like 800,000 a mile.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, well, I think our recommendation then is to let Tim recommend it, and that's to investigate more on this. And it looks like we're locked into 2.5. And then what we do with it. And our vote would be the most efficient way possible, for sure, which would be stupid not to recommend. That's in the best interest of every citizen in this community.
Yeah.
Okay. Any more discussion on that?
Well, if we got 3 more fire trucks and about 12 more guys, we could be sending them out and the city could be making more money. There's so many fires going on right now.
Oh, man. Our guys just got back Saturday. They're going to be back in service again tomorrow because they've been on R&R, and I'm going to bet they're not going to sit for very long. And they're bringing in some decent income for us.
They need the workers so much that they extended their last deployment, which is usually unheard of. They only go 2 weeks, but they did 3 or 4 weeks this time.
They almost over a month, a little over a month. Yeah, and at 16-hour days they were working. So
Yeah, it's Lance, and you have, how many guys do you have now? Is 3 guys?
4 of
4.
them.
4?
We wrote some really hefty paychecks this last Monday with overtime. The state reimburses us for it, but it was beautiful to see those guys get that money.
Yeah,
Where
we'll
were
get
they with
reimbursed,
fire?
make a little
They don't-
money off them, and make money off our truck.
Have we got any fighting in Utah?
Not out of our department right now. They just got back from California. We'll wait, probably tomorrow or Thursday. I'll put them back available again, and we'll see if they'll get called out to one of our local fires.
We've got
I
some
don't
pretty
know. The
good-
one in Monroe is happening. Just my in-laws can sit and look at that one out their back window.
I've been seeing videos of that. That looks scary. It's blowing up pretty, I guess it blew up overnight pretty big.
Yeah, that's a mountain that I spent a lot of time on.
That brought back some PTSD watching those videos that night. Even Marianne's
Yeah.
like, "Oh my goodness, Chris, that reminds me of 2018."
It's funny because the fire that we had, you don't think it really affected you, but just different little things.
Yeah.
Like I went and got a travel trailer because the first time when we got evacuated, we didn't have anywhere to stay. And so now we do. You know what I mean? Now I know and that's why I bought it. I mean, I bought it to use it, but it's also for preparedness in case I need it.
That's what Wendy did. She could be at the command center and stay down there the whole time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay,
Do we need to meet again? Or no? Chris? Are we good?
I think we could probably do it through email if everybody's available through email. I'll try and actually all the documents I've showed, I'll try and consolidate it down a little bit. And then with Tim's research, with what I get from Zions Bank, with the different pots of money, I'll try and put everything into 1 or 2 documents. That'll make it easier in the presentation on the 29th also.
for me personally, Chris, dumb it down really.
Hi.
Yeah.
Okay,
All right. Well, thank you.
appreciate it. Any other items of possible discussion tonight?
Just a helicopter for Ted.
Oh,
Well, I'm off the helicopter until we get the brush truck. That became a higher priority. So
We're, I don't think we're up to approving a helicopter tonight.
He also wants a new brush truck for the wildland crew.
Yeah. Ed, you're like a Christmas, aren't you?
yeah, I'm like a kid on Christmas morning. But
We just don't get
Yeah.
paid when that truck breaks down. And that other truck's a 2006 and it just can't go on those
2006,
fires
it
anymore.
it breaks down. I'm spending more money. It's in the shop right now getting fixed. I'm spending money on it, more money than it makes. So
And actually go back to your lease, Janet, the money we're spending on that truck the past 12 months would have paid for 1 year's lease on a brand new truck. Pretty close to it.
No, I know.
Yeah,
It's just hard
just-
when you get told these things and then it sticks in your brain. You're kind of
Yeah.
Well,
Look at
it's
the
easy to
sunset.
get overextended with payments, so.
So I guess, we would just trust in you, Chris, to make sure we don't get in a similar situation, right? We just want
Thank
to
you.
be
Yeah,
careful.
no, we don't. The only other one that I could see us leasing is Tri Fire Truck, but I think we got everything else we need. Everything's under warranty, getting covered. We don't have any breakdowns except this fire truck right now.
All right, so there's no public here. Next meeting date will be on, hopefully we'll see the city council on the 29th of July, starting at 6 o'clock, correct?
Yes.
Okay. I'll call for adjournment.
I'll go with that.
Okay, we're adjourned.
Thanks, everybody.
Good seeing you guys.
Thanks.
We'll see you.
Okay, and I'm just putting that on there, July 29th, 6 PM to attend city council meeting.
Thanks, everyone.
The budget. And that'll be good because they always ask me what you guys recommend. And so I always get, I always end up speaking for you, but I have the minutes, the notes, so it's fine. But it'll be nice, they can hear us.
Thank you for doing the minute.
They're done, yeah, I'll get them out.
And when you get them out, you post them before they're.
Jody does that. I just send them to you and Jody, and then she takes care of the rest. So,
Thank you.
You bet. Good to see you guys.
yeah. Put ahead. Just good at asking about it. Yeah, the minutes are all done. It's easier. It's easier when I have more knowledge of it, what we're discussing. Sometimes I feel like I'm trying to soak it in and it's hard to be typing and taking minutes. So because I've gone over this so many times. I still don't love it. Like I don't love any of it. I decided to run again and I didn't want to, not because I don't like to serve, because I do, but no, there's 2 council positions, and I'm one of them, and I'm running, and then Mike Myers running. Myers even backed up.